The computing company Zike recently sent me out their portable Z791C storage solution for review. This little SSD is perfect for extending the storage of smartphones and tablets, boasting cool features such as a colour LCD display and a built-in silent cooling fan to ensure write speeds don't drop. It supports USB 3.2 Gen 2, so can support transfer speeds up to 10 gigabits per second, and it is available with 256 gigabytes, 512 gigabytes, 1 terabyte or 2 terabytes of storage. At the time of recording, the 256 gigabyte model is sold out, but the 512 gigabyte version is available for $139.99, the 1 terabyte version for $189.99, and 2 terabytes for $299.99. Here in the UK, those prices convert to £105.62, £143.35, and £226.35 respectively. I have tested this drive on iOS, iPadOS, Android, Mac and Windows, but Zike are understandably marketing this to iPhone Pro and iPhone Pro Max users, as this drive allows you to shoot up to 4K at 120 frames per second using Apple's ProRes video codec. ProRes is a professional video codec that was designed to give really high image quality while keeping video file sizes smaller and editing smooth. It comes in different versions, from lighter options like ProRes Proxy all the way up to ProRes RAW, which preserves sensor data for maximum flexibility in post-production. From a video recording perspective, ProRes is an incredibly powerful tool, as it gives you high quality video footage which you can colour grade as you see fit. I still find it amazing that Apple are supporting ProRes recording on a smartphone, and it is one of the reasons I recently purchased the iPhone 17 Pro Max. But in order to record using that video codec, you need to attach an external drive, such as the Zike Z791C. The package includes two rigid USB Type-C extension cables, which are 67mm and 75mm in length. The storage drive itself features a built-in Type-C output at the top and a Type-C input at the bottom. A user manual is also included in the box. It's amazing how small and light this drive is, weighing in at just 23 grams, which is 8 ounces. The Type-C input at the bottom is a nice addition, as it allows you to connect other devices such as microphones, wired headphones, and USB hubs, although I found charging to be the most practical use case for my own usage. I've had no issues connecting the drive to my Honor Magic 7 Pro Android phone. Now, Honor state that the phone supports USB 3.2 Gen 1 connection speeds of 5 gigabits per second, but as you can see from the drive's LCD display, the Zike SSD showed slower USB 2 transfer speeds of 480 megabits per second. In contrast, my iPhone 17 Pro Max connects at an impressive 10 gigabits per second. The colourful LCD display also shows the available storage, power input or power draw, drive lifespan and the current temperature of the drive. Let's see how this SSD performs in the real world. On paper, Zike claims up to 990 megabytes per second reading and 960 megabytes per second writing over its 10 gigabit USB-C connection. Using the Diskio app on my iPhone, I saw about 880 megabytes per second reading and 760 megabytes per second writing. Testing again on my M4 iPad Pro gave nearly identical results. These results are a little lower than Zike's claimed transfer speeds, but still incredibly strong for a portable SSD. On my Mac Studio's front 10 gigabit USB-C ports, AutoDisk Benchmark reported around 804 megabytes per second reading and 713 megabytes per second writing. Blackmagic Design's disk speed test gave some strange inflated results, so I'll disregard those. Switching to a rear Thunderbolt 5 port improved results, about 1000 megabytes per second reading, or 1 gigabyte per second reading, and 782 megabytes per second writing, which I think is likely down to the Thunderbolt controller handling USB traffic more efficiently. The drive was formatted as exFAT out of the box, but to rule out formatting issues, I erased the drive, reformatted it as exFAT again, and tested the drive again on my Mac Studio's front ports. The read speeds were similar, but the write speeds did increase to around 800 megabytes per second. Finally, on my old Dell laptop with Windows and a Thunderbolt 3 connection, Crystal Disk Mark showed 929 megabytes per second reading and 799 megabytes per second writing, very much in line with what I had seen across other devices. You probably won't utilise those high speeds when your smartphone or tablet is writing to the SSD. However, those higher speeds ensure that transferring large video files to your computer is quick and painless. The speed tests I have performed are a good way of seeing how fast an SSD can potentially read and write to the drive. But as they're relatively quick to do, they don't highlight potential problems with overheating and sustained reading and writing over a longer period of time. In practice, I found that the built-in cooling fan keeps the SSD from overheating. When I performed a recording test using Apple ProRes, the drive showed a write speed of 100 megabytes per second and a temperature of 45 degrees Celsius. This remained consistent during the whole recording. The fan is very quiet, and my video recording tests outside did not pick up any fan noise when it was cooling the SSD. But as the drive is so close to a smartphone's internal microphones, they could pick up that fan noise in a quiet environment. I don't think that's a problem, as I think that most people who are recording using ProRes will be recording audio using a shotgun mic, lavalier mic, or wireless mic. The bottom line, across iPhone, iPad, Mac, and Windows, this SSD consistently delivers about 800 megabytes per second reading and writing, sometimes peaking closer to 1 gigabytes per second on Thunderbolt ports. Not quite the advertised numbers, but still incredibly impressive for everyday use. As you have already seen, the drive is easy to use. You just need to connect your smartphone, tablet, or computer, and you're good to go. The included extension cables are useful if you don't want the SSD to be placed at the bottom of your smartphone, which could be useful to those of you that are using smartphone recording rigs and cages, especially as the LCD display will adjust to the position that you're holding it in. When the drive arrived a few weeks ago, I successfully tested it with my iPhone without a case and then with the speaking case that I purchased. Unfortunately, my military-style subcase case is too bulky for the drive, and the Type-C port dust cover prevents extension cables from connecting too, though I was able to resolve this problem easily by buying some cheap USB Type-C adapters. These adapters were only £5 from Amazon, and I'm seeing the exact same transfer speeds and charging speeds when using them. As useful as they are, I really don't like using those small adapters with my iPhone, as the weight of connected accessories, such as the Zike SSD, puts a lot of pressure on the phone's Type-C port. I tried connecting to the drive using several fast Type-C cables instead, but their transfer speeds were all limited to 480 megabits per second. This is expected behaviour. As well as the SSD's male Type-C port supports USB 3.2 Gen 2 speeds of 10 gigabits per second, the female Type-C port is limited to USB 2 speeds. So to take advantage of the faster male Type-C port, I bought a flat cable set from Amazon that supports male and female connections and speeds up to 40 gigabits per second. This is the perfect setup for my bulky iPhone case, as the cable doesn't put any pressure on my phone's Type-C port, and the ZeekTech SSD magnetically connects to the back of the phone. I want to show you how you can use this SSD to record videos on an iPhone using the ProRes video codec. And to do that, you'll need an iPhone Pro or Pro Max from the last few years. Before I do that, I just want to talk about the connections again, because I think it is important to clarify a few things. I think it's important to clarify that for 99% of you, you'll just connect it directly, whether you've got a phone case on or not. It will just work, it will just connect. This is big enough for most people. So you'll connect it at the bottom there, or you'll use one of these extension cables. Now, these extension cables are quite good. And the reason I'm saying that is because this is magnetic, and that's a great way to connect it to the back of your phone and kind of keep it out of the way. But this case is not magnetic, so I can't do that. I can't just stick it there like that. And that's why a cable like this is useful, because these cables here are quite rigid. I mean, there's a little bit of flex there, but they're quite rigid, and they're strong enough to hold the SSD in place like that. So you don't need this to be magnetic in order to put it at the back of your phone, because you can just do, forget it here, you can just do that and it will hold the SSD in place at the back of your phone. So that's really useful, especially for those of you who don't have a magnetic case, or the back of your case is magnetic. Now, as you can see here, my phone is run off, but as you can see here, this case is quite bulky, it's quite protective, and because of that, this cannot penetrate the thickness here. It's just too thick, so I can't connect the SSD directly, and because of the limited space here, it doesn't even work with that. It actually works at the front. If I wanted to put the SSD at the front of the phone, I could do that, but obviously that's not practical. But yeah, because it's got a dust cover, it just can't get over. Now, most people don't have a case this big, but if you're like me and you have a bulky extra protective case, then you have to think of a different solution. And you saw in a lot of my tests, a lot of my like benchmarking tests, etc., I was using these adapters. And these adapters are great because they don't change the transfer speeds, they don't change the charging speeds either. And they're very simple to use, and you know, like $5 or $6, and then you can just connect it to your phone like that. What I don't like about it though is that, you know, you can even feel the weight on it when you connect it, and it's like that. But you imagine if you accidentally put some pressure on that, you're going to put a lot of pressure on the USB Type-C port in your phone, and that's not good, especially because the USB Type-C port on smartphones is typically a weak point in, you know, the whole structure of the thing. And it's a common repair. So yes, best to avoid that in my opinion. And that's why what I would recommend is if your case here is too bulky to connect directly or use one of these connection cables here, then I think these short flat cables like that are great. They're a great solution, a great workaround. And again, no difference in charging speeds, no difference in transfer speeds. And yeah, it doesn't look as pretty as those rigid cables, but it gets the job done. And yeah, I think it looks good. And I think that's the best solution for most people. Okay, I'll clear this stuff out of the way, make it look a little bit tidier, because what I want to do now is talk about ProRes recording on an iPhone. Now, some of you might be aware of this already, but I want to show you how it's done. So when you go into the camera app here, the iPhone camera app, you'll see that I've got an option there for JPEG, and do video, you'll see that, click up the top there, there's an option for ProRes. Now if I get it in focus there, it's quite hard because of the white light, but yeah, there's an option for ProRes up there. Now, when you get an iPhone, that option at the top left for the JPEG images for photos and for ProRes video, those options will not be there, because by default, you see their formats. What you have to do is go into your settings area, go to camera, and then you have to change some settings. Now to enable ProRes, as you can see here, you go into formats, so camera and then formats, and then make sure this is enabled, because by default, it's not enabled. You don't have that option. You have to manually enable it, even on the Pro and Pro Max phones, which is where that option is. Now, there are other options there as well. You can set the default value for videos, etc. But I just want to show you that that's where it is. It's a similar thing in the Blackmagic Cam. You've got your camera here, but what you need to do is go in and select Apple ProRes RAW. Requires external storage. And that's important because both of these camera applications do require it. You can see here, external storage required. ProRes RAW requires recording to external storage, like this. You get a similar option here. If you, so go to video, go to ProRes, turn it on, HDR. So you can record here. You can see that. You can record ProRes 30 frames per second, but if you want to do 120, you can see there, ProRes 4K, at 60 frames per second or higher is only supported when recording to external storage devices. So that's what we're here for. Okay, let's do it. We'll connect this up. You know how to do that. Stick it to the back here. And we'll power it on via bus power. There we go, it's the right way now. The display will change depending on how you're holding it. So now we've got a 10 gigabits per second connection. Now, if you're not sure about whether it's connected or not, you can use the Files app. So iPhone, iOS rather, has a Files application, and you'll see that it's there, Zike Mobile. It was called something, I think it was called just Z Drive or something at first, but now I've renamed it to Zike Mobile. And you can see that it is connected, and those are all the video recording tests that I was doing outside. So it's now there. Now, if you record there, the iPhone's quite good at just realizing that there is external storage there. And it kind of picks it up. It kind of automatically detects that there is an external SSD there. And if you look up here, you'll see that it's writing. You see that? It's writing 270 megabytes per second. And again, we've got the temperature there at 45 degrees. So it's recording, it's detected that there is an external drive, and it started recording. And yeah, that little fan inside ensures that it stays at that recording speed. So the default camera app is quite good in detecting that an external drive is connected, and then it just allows you to record using 4K 60 or 4K 120. Now in the Blackmagic cam, I have obviously connected the SSD, but you'll notice here, it's still giving us that message, external storage required. And that's because in addition to selecting ProRes RAW or RAW HQ, in this instance I can do, you have to go down and go to the media section and see the part that says save clips to. By default, it goes to in-app only. What you need to do is go to files and then make sure you go back, select, you can see it there, Zike Mobile, and then click open. And now we are recording to Zike Mobile. And now I can click record and we're off to the races. So that's how easy it is. And once again, I can show you 10 gigabits per second, but we're getting, what we're getting here, 79, 80 megabytes per second. So here, obviously, the read and write speeds are going to be different depending on what you've selected. If I change to RAW now, I go down and I select record, it's recording. The megabytes is a little bit different again. And it's maybe a little lower than some of my tests previously, and that's because you have to go in and you have to select, there's so many options here, but you have to select the resolution and you have to select the frame rate, etc. There's a lot of options here, like the ridiculous number of options here that you have to go in. If I do end up selecting 120 frames rate, etc., the write speed there is going to be a lot higher. So I was looking for the frame rate there in the settings area, but I was being stupid because I know what it is. It's actually in the main camera area. You click on FPS there at the top, it brings on this little menu down the bottom, and then you should have all the options up to 120. But that, what options there depends on the lens that you've selected, because you can choose different lenses there at the bottom as well. But you can see that I've now got 120 frames per second, and it's recording away. And if we get closer there, you can see that we're now up to the 207 megabytes per second that I was recording at before. Now the temperature is a little bit higher because we're recording at 4K 120, but that's to be expected, and I can hear the fan a little bit. I mean, the SSD is hot, as you would expect when you're writing to it, but it's not too bad, and we should keep that temperature consistent over time. So that's how you do it. It's not too complicated. The iPhone's camera app, oh sorry, I disconnected that there, that was bad. The iPhone's camera app is really good because it just recognizes external storage. But just make sure that when you go to the Blackmagic cam, the settings area, make sure you select the drive as an external SSD, because if not, it will default to in-app only and it will not record to the SSD. So make sure you go into settings and make sure you go to the media area and make sure you select the Zike SSD. I hope you've all enjoyed learning about this external SSD solution from Zike, or Zike Tech as they call themselves. I've been using this portable SSD for a few weeks and I am impressed. I like the fact that this is magnetic, small and light, because I'm more likely to take it with me to carry it around and then use it because it has such a small footprint. The built-in fan is cool, and I like the fact that it has a color display that shows power draw or power charge, and it shows you the transfer speeds as well. And throughout this video, I have been using the example of using this to record videos using Apple's ProRes video codec. And it is a great selling point of this, and it is a great use case for this. I suspect a lot of people will be buying this for that. But ultimately, it's an SSD. If you want, you can just use it to store files from your smartphone or your tablet and just transfer files, photos, videos, etc. And it's not a bad use case to do that because, as you know, upgrading the internal storage of your smartphone can be very expensive. You know, if I had to upgrade this, 2560, 512 to 1 terabytes to 2 terabytes, Apple charges a crazy amount of money. So it's a lot cheaper to buy something like this and expand storage in that way. So yeah, something to think about. If you want to learn more about this, check out the official website. I'll leave a link down below that gives you a 20% discount. And if you get any questions, post a comment. If you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, give it a subscribe, and until next time, take care.